team of paranormal investigators, led by the experienced but skeptical Alan Torrance, arrived in Fayetteville, West Virginia, on a humid August evening. They occupied a small, crumbling bed and breakfast that felt untouched since the 1950s, a perfect base for their inquiry into the Sodder children's disappearance. Almost immediately, an unsettling presence seemed to seep from the walls, as if the house itself harbored secrets of its own. The group, including Alan's spirited sister Marie and two other investigators, Tim and Ruth, were each haunted by inexplicable feelings of being watched. Alan spent the night poring over historical archives and photographs. The images of the smiling Sodder children stared back at him, hinting at the innocence lost on the fateful night of the fire. Theories abounded, ranging from mafia involvement to child abduction rings, and even paranormal interference. Each page turned and addressed Alan's unease, forging a connection with the children, as if he could feel their voices echoing through time. The team assembled in the dimly lit sitting room of the inn the following morning. Unease draped over them like a thick fog as they shared restless dreams of fire, flickering shadows, and distant cries. A decision was made to visit the site of the Sodder home without delay, hoping to uncover truths that had eluded the world for decades. The trek to the remnants of the Sodder house was laden with a palpable sense of dread. Overgrown weeds had reclaimed the lot, now merely a ghostly outline of its past structure. The ground seemed to whisper the secrets of that fiery night. As the group surveyed the hollowed earth, Tim stumbled upon something shiny buried beneath the dirt. An old, forgotten toy truck, eerily intact despite the devastation. Marie, ever sensitive to the spiritual echoes of a place, paused, her eyes drawing towards the forest adjacent to the property. The rustling leaves appeared to bear the whisper of children's laughter. Ruth, always the pragmatist, brushed off the notion of paranormal phenomena. It was just the wind, she reasoned, though her voice didn't conceal the doubt within. The day gave way to an overcast evening. As shadows lengthened and deepened, a feeling of claustrophobia set in, pressing against their senses. The departure from the site was swift, accompanied by an unshakable sensation of being pursued by something unseen. A silent pact formed amongst the team to return and explore further, despite the growing apprehension. Back at the bed and breakfast, the investigators reeled from the uneasy exploration. Alan's mind raced with possibilities, his instincts honing in on the inexplicable allure of the toy truck. It felt as if they had unearthed a piece of the past that wasn't meant to be disturbed. To distract themselves from unease, they delved into further research, poring over news clippings and previous detective notes. During the late hours, just as the grandfather clock struck midnight, a cold breeze seeped under the windowsills, chilling each room. Marie suddenly awoke, overcome by the feeling of being drawn inexplicably. She followed the pull, leading her to the attic, where a singular window allowed a narrow beam of moonlight to cast eerie shadows. There, on the dust-laden floor, she discovered ancient drawings and childish scrawlings etched into the wood. Spectral outlines of children playing surrounded a scorched patch that defied logic, given the house's architecture. For Marie, a connection was beginning to form between the tragic history and the lingering presence that refused to rest. Inspired by Marie's discovery, the team decided to conduct a séance to communicate with the spirits that seemed to haunt the inn. Alan was hesitant, his rational mind clashing with the surreal, but the undeniable tension since their arrival urged him to agree. As they gathered in the sitting room, a circle was formed, their fingers entwined over a decrepit Ouija board. As the séance commenced, the atmosphere thickened, charged with an energy that left them breathless. The candle flickered violently, and the planchette moved with a force far beyond their own. It spelled out disjointed words, FLAME, NIGHT, sending shivers down their spines. A spectral chill swept through the room, as if fleeting souls danced amidst the shadows, desperate to communicate, yet trapped in a silent scream. Suddenly, the board flew off the table, crashing against the wall, leaving a deep dent. This violently terminated the séance. Though shaken, they were resolute. It wasn't fear that anchored them now, but a burdened determination to give a voice to those lost children, and to unveil the truth veiled by flames and time. With waning spirits, but undeterred resolve, the next morning the team prepared to visit the small local museum. Known for housing artifacts from Fayetteville's most notorious cases, it seemed a logical place to continue their quest. The curator, an elderly man with an aura of untapped wisdom, greeted them at the door, his eyes shrouded by the weight of untold tales. In hushed tones, he revealed detailed accounts of the Sodder family he'd gathered over the years. He spoke of George and Jenny Sodder's relentless search for their children, and the strange occurrences that followed the fire. The whispers of witnesses who claimed to have seen the children elsewhere, unharmed, yet never located. His tales painted a picture of a town overshadowed by its dark past, secrets guarded jealously by its aging residents. Amidst dusty shelves, Ruth discovered a photograph, sepia and worn, of the Sodder children playing in a field, candidly bright and unaware of fate. Standing before it, the air around Ruth turned frigid, and she glimpsed her reflection overlap with another, an image of a child in an old nightdress. A fleeting vision that snapped her back with a start. The chilling notion of time erasing the boundaries between past and present. That night, as a storm brewed over the hills, the team gathered to share their day's findings and plan their next steps. The room felt smaller, compressed by unseen forces. Ruth, still shaken by her experience at the museum, suggested retracing the steps of the children's last known sightings, each lead seemingly cloaked in an impenetrable mist. Alan reluctantly agreed. well aware of the whispered legends among locals about the children being taken by a mysterious force. Tales of a flickering figure, distorted in the night, creeping into the Sodder home, a legend blending eerily with Ruth's earlier vision. The stories had always seemed outlandish, yet now each retelling weighed like truth in their minds. That evening, the power flickered as they discussed the logistics of their plan. Shadows distorted under the flash of lightning, becoming grotesque harbingers of the impending search. The storm outside hammered against the windows, its intensity matching the storm of unease brewing within their small group. Determined to follow the trail, the team set out the next day under the cover of low, gray skies. The roads were slick and treacherous, echoing the labyrinthine mystery enveloping their investigation. The first destination was a nearby farmhouse, where an acquaintance claimed to have sighted a Sodder child years ago. The farmhouse appeared almost spectral against the bleak sky, its windows dark voids that reflected the approach of strangers. Its current inhabitant, a reclusive middle-aged woman, was reticent at first, her eyes betraying a glimmer of recognition at the mention of the Sodder name. As she spoke, her words painted a haunting tale of seeing a child in worn clothes, peering from the edge of her field, then vanishing as if into thin air. Leaving the farmhouse, the investigators were plagued by a sense of something just out of sight, watching and waiting in the wings of their consciousness. Each mile they drove carried them further down a path laden with whispers of the past, their goal of unraveling the tangled web of truths and mysteries felt both near and impossibly distant. Ensconced within every shadowed corner of their journey, returning to their base, Ruth and Marie pored over the files late into the night, their growing exhaustion mirrored by a palpable unease permeating the inn. Something unseen seemed to stir alongside them, matching their determination with its malevolent presence. The air was thick with anticipation, foretelling truths about to unfurl. As the hours ticked agonizingly by, Ruth noticed a subtle, rhythmic tapping from the window. Peering through the aged glass, she observed nothing but the whisper of trees soughed by the passing wind. Yet every few minutes, the pattern resumed. It was as if unseen children were reaching back, grasping at the world they'd lost, trying to connect through the walls of time. Resoluteness, fortified through perseverance, they resolved to visit the last place any of the children had reputedly been seen, a deserted railway station on the outskirts of town. It was here that an elderly vagabond once spun tales of children boarding a mysterious train, stepping into nothingness and leaving only whispers behind. With this new lead, hope surged among their despairing spirits. The dilapidated train station held an unsettling quietness as they arrived. The air inside was stale, infused with the scent of rust and abandonment. Neglect had etched itself into every corner, the ticket booth covered in dust, old posters clinging desperately to the walls. It was Ruth who first noticed it, a disturbance in the dust, footprints that seemed to appear and disappear across the station floor, not unlike the fleeting presence of a ghost. The team followed the spectral trail with bated breath, each step resonating like a heartbeat, amplifying the surreal environment. The trail led to the farthest platform, overgrown with vines reclaiming their realm, unveiled another piece of the puzzle. A broken bench bore the unmistakable outline of children carved onto its surface, their figures engaged in play. An ethereal quality enveloped their etched expressions, a reminder of innocence vanished, yet stubbornly lingering. Their investigation had brought them to the threshold of another world, one forged in time's ambiguous etchings, decoding a story of absence and spectral connection. As their exploration continued, the apparition of a steam engine's whistle pierced the silence, a sound seemingly ripped from the past. The team spun around, staring down the tracks swallowed by darkness. The noise resonated with eerie familiarity, rooted in another time. Marie and Alan locked eyes, a silent understanding of what this might symbolize. They advanced down the tracks, feeling drawn towards a truth yet unspoken, stepping through shadows that seemed to congeal around them. The path was lined with wildflowers struggling to overcome the blight of encroaching time. In this moment, the intangible barrier between realms felt like fragile lace, lace that could be torn apart to reveal greater mysteries. The investigators were poised on the precipice of discovery, the culmination of their journey, a symbolic encounter with the truth that lay embedded within the marrow of the land, and the spectral cries of the children. Every sense screamed of closure as they stood ready to receive what had been hidden from the world for so long.